My girlfriend mocked my salary and told her friends I was a stepping stone, so I became a millionaire and never answered her late night calls, and I used to think love was supposed to lift you up. Back then, I was barely scraping by, working late shifts as a junior software engineer, living in a tiny one-bedroom apartment with peeling paint and a heater that rattled like it was coughing its last breath. My car needed 2 prayers and a push to start some mornings, and I survived mostly on instant noodles and vending machine coffee. My bank balance was a joke, and my confidence, even worse. That's when I met Julia. She walked into my life like some kind of miracle, funny, smart, and completely unbothered by the fact that I wasn't anyone special yet. We met at a friend's game night, and she struck up a conversation about indie games and tech startups. I expected her to forget about me by morning. She did. Julia started showing up at my office with takeout, surprising me with little notes that said things like, "Your brain is your superpower." She listened when I rambled about my app ideas. She looked at me like I was already someone. On nights when I doubted myself, she'd sit on my sagging couch, curled up under a thrift store blanket, and say, "You're gonna build something great one day." I feel it. She made me believe I wasn't just a broke guy with pipe dreams. I thought she saw the man. I could become the version of me I was still chasing. And I gave her everything. My time, my loyalty, my heart. For the first time in years, I felt like I was allowed to dream bigger, because someone believed in me. But I didn't know back then. I wasn't her future. I was just a placeholder in her timeline. After Julia came into my life, I started to feel like maybe everything was finally turning around. I was still broke, still exhausted, but her presence made the grind bearable. I'd wake up, drag myself to my desk, and code until my eyes burned. Genius somehow made it all feel lighter. I wanted to become the man she believed I could be. I was obsessed with my side project, an app idea that could automate workflow systems for small businesses. It wasn't glamorous, but it had potential. I spent weekends debugging instead of going out, working while she watched Netflix beside me. At first, Julia thought it was cute. She'd tease, "My little tech nerd saving the world one bug at a time." We'd laugh, and I'd feel proud like maybe she understood what I was building toward. But soon, her jokes stopped sounding playful. "Do you ever take a break from pretending to be Elon Musk?" she'd say with a smirk. Or, love doesn't pay rent, right? I brushed it off. Everyone gets frustrated sometimes. She wanted date nights. I wanted a future. I told myself it was just temporary, that once I made it, she'd see I was doing it for us. Still, every time I missed dinner or forgot an anniversary reminder, her eyes went cold. "You care more about that stupid app than me," she snapped once, slamming her phone on the table. I didn't fight back. I just sat there, ashamed, thinking she was right. I kept grinding anyway. Each insult became fuel, each sigh a reminder to push harder. I thought if I could just win, everything else would fall into place. But the truth was, I didn't see the cracks forming yet. And one night, those cracks split wide open. Looking back, the warning signs were always there. I just didn't want to admit what they meant. Julia started showing off more online. New outfits, fancy brunch spots, selfies with captions like "Know Your Worth" and "Soft Life Only." At first, I liked it. She looked happy. But I wasn't in those photos. Not anymore. One night, we were at a rooftop bar with her friends' people who talked about real estate, luxury watches, and crypto like they were discussing the weather. I stayed quiet, sipping my beer, knowing I didn't belong in their circle. Julia leaned in and wrapped her arm around me. "This is my boyfriend," she said sweetly. "He's in tech, still finding his feet." Her friend laughed and said, "So like future rich." Julia smirked. "Hopefully," then she added, "right now, he's just rich in ambition." They all laughed. I laughed too, but something in my chest twisted. Later in the car, I asked, "Why'd you say that?" She rolled her eyes. "Relax. It was a joke. Didn't feel like one." "Well, sorry I didn't pitch you like a Shark Tank contestant." I went quiet. She sighed and turned up the music. The next few weeks felt different, colder. I noticed she'd go silent during my app updates, scrolling through her phone while I talked. When I told her I finally launched a beta version, she blinked and said, "Cool. So when does the money part happen?" I tried to kiss her one night and she pulled away, saying, "You've been glued to that screen all week. It's like dating a ghost." I wanted to scream. I'm doing this for us, but I didn't. I just swallowed it. Told myself she was tired. Then came the night that tore the blindfold off completely when I heard the words I was never supposed to hear. It was a Thursday night. I remember because I was debugging a feature that kept crashing the app every time a user tried to onboard. I'd been at it for hours, pacing around our apartment, headphones in but nothing playing, just white noise to help me think. Julia was in the bedroom, door half closed, on a FaceTime call with one of her girlfriends. I wasn't really listening until I heard my name. She laughed, sharp, dismissive. "Oh my God, no, he's not the one. He's the stepping stone. You know, like the build-me-up boyfriend. He's obsessed with his little project. It's cute, but girl, I'm not about to spend the next 5 years watching him code in sweatpants." My heart didn't just sink, it collapsed. I stood frozen in the hallway, the dim kitchen light casting my shadow across the floor. I could still hear her voice, low but clear. "He's sweet, but let's be real. He's not going anywhere. I'm just riding it out until someone with actual success comes along." Her friend giggled. "You're so bad," Julia whispered. "I'm being strategic." "You think I'm going to settle down, Brooke?" I backed away like I'd touched a live wire. I walked into the bathroom and stared at myself in the mirror, my face pale, eyes hollow. The woman I thought was my ride, die, ... was laughing about me like I was a training dummy for her next relationship. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't confront her either. I lay in bed beside her, my back to hers, pretending to breathe normally while every part of me screamed. I knew something had broken that couldn't be fixed, and I made a silent promise to myself. She thinks I'm a stepping stone. Then I'll build a damn empire on her disrespect. I didn't say a word the next morning. Julia made coffee, kissed my cheek like nothing had happened, and asked if I could pick up groceries after work. I nodded. My face didn't flinch. My voice didn't crack. I was done giving her access to my emotions that day. Something shifted inside me. I stopped trying to prove myself to her. I stopped looking for validation in her reactions or support in her tone. Every moment I used to spend trying to make her proud, I redirected into my startup. I doubled down, woke up earlier, coded longer, cut out distractions. I'd still go through the motions, take her to dinner, listen to her stories, nod when she showed me outfits, but in my mind, I was already gone. I started staying late at my co-working space downtown. I stopped showing her my progress. When she asked how things were going, I'd say fine and change the subject. I started reading founder blogs, learning sales funnels, pitching quietly to my... The more silent I got, the more restless she became. "You don't talk to me anymore," she snapped one night while I was brushing my teeth. I looked at her in the mirror and calmly said, "I'm just focused." She narrowed her eyes. "On what? You're always working, and we're not even seeing results." I didn't respond. I walked past her and went to bed. She didn't know that behind the scenes, I'd closed my first tiny contract, just $8,000. But it was enough to start building real traction. She didn't know I'd found a small team of remote developers who believed in the product, more than she ever did in me. And most of all, she had no idea I was already planning how to leave her behind. A few weeks after that first contract, things started to move fast. Asterisk, I'd used the $8,000 to bring on 2 part-time developers, guys from an online founders forum who had been through the same grind I was in. We weren't just coding anymore. We were building. I rebranded the app, polished the UX, and launched a beta version with our first paying client. The feedback was better than I could have hoped for. I remember staring at the dashboard as the numbers ticked up and thinking, this is real now. But I didn't tell Julia. When I bought a new laptop, she raised an eyebrow. "Where'd that come from?" "Business expense," I said without elaborating. She smirked. "Must be nice to play CEO on someone else's dime." I just nodded, knowing she had no idea I'd funded it myself with revenue I earned. The less I told her, the more curious she got. She'd peek at my screen, ask more questions, start conversations with, "So, what exactly is this thing you're building?" I kept it surfacely. Nothing serious yet. She didn't deserve the details. Not anymore. At night, I'd lay next to her in bed while she scrolled through TikToks and texted her friends. And I'd be reading investor pitch decks, replying to emails from beta testers, sketching out marketing funnels. I was living a double life, one version of me beside her, in silence. The other, out in the world, quietly building something that didn't include her at all. And the craziest part, the less I needed her, the more she tried to pull me close. She could feel the power dynamic shift, and it made her nervous. But I wasn't looking for her support anymore. I was looking for the right moment to let go. Completely. The breakup didn't happen like a movie scene. No shouting, no crying, no dramatic storming out. It was quiet, surgical. We were sitting on the couch, some reality show playing in the background, her feet in my lap while she scrolled her phone. I turned the volume down, looked her in the eye, and said, "I think we should break up." She blinked. "What?" "I've been thinking about it for a while. This just isn't working." Julia laughed, like I'd made a joke that didn't land. "Are you serious?" I nodded. "Yeah, I am." She sat up fast, her voice sharp. "You're doing this now? Out of nowhere?" "It's not out of nowhere," I said quietly. "You stopped respecting me a long time ago. I just finally caught up." Her face hardened. "Wow, so what? You get a little traction in your startup, and suddenly you think you're too good for me. This isn't about being too good, it's about finally seeing things clearly." She crossed her arms. "I supported you." "No," I said calmly. "You tolerated me while mocking me behind my back. You didn't believe in me? You waited for someone better." There it was, that flash of guilt in her eyes, like a secret exposed under too bright light. She didn't deny it, she just said, "I didn't mean it like that." I was venting. "You took it out of context." But I wasn't here for damage control. I stood up and said, "I'm not angry. I'm just done." That night, I packed a duffel bag and went to stay at a friend's place. I left the apartment key on the kitchen counter. I didn't slam the door, I didn't look back, because what she didn't know was that she'd just set me free. Freedom didn't feel like power at first. It felt like silence. I crashed on my buddy Devin's second-floor walk-up with flickering lights and no AC. I kept my duffel bag by the door and my laptop on the coffee table, like some kind of digital refugee. For the first few days, I couldn't sleep. Not because I missed her, but because I was haunted by everything I'd ignored. Every moment, I'd excused every red flag I'd painted over just to feel loved. There was this one night train hammering the windows, the apartment stinking of old takeout and cheap air freshener, when I sat alone on that lumpy couch, staring at the blinking cursor on my screen. The app had hit a wall. Our early users had dropped off. A feature update had introduced a major bug. I'd maxed out my savings covering dev costs, and one of the part-time engineers had just ghosted me. Mid-sprint. Everything felt like it was slipping through my fingers. I opened my messages and hovered over Julia's name. She'd texted a few times since the breakup, first to ask if I was okay, then to tell me she still cared. Then finally, a drunk voicemail at 2 a.m. saying she missed me. I never replied, but that night, I almost did. I almost gave in to the comfort of what was familiar, even if it was toxic. I hovered over the call button, thumb shaking. Then I closed the app, deleted her number, and opened my pitch deck instead. I pulled an all-nighter, rebuilding the roadmap. I cleaned up the UX. I cold emailed 10 potential partners before the sun came up. Because if this was rock bottom, then I was going to start laying bricks. A week after that, all night, something changed. One of the cold emails I'd sent at 3:14 a.m. landed in the inbox of a mid-tier influencer who ran a YouTube channel about productivity tools. He liked the pitch, said he'd give the app a try, and maybe feature it in a video if it worked smoothly. I didn't think much of it. I'd sent dozens of those emails before. But 3 days later, his video dropped. Title: "This tiny app replaced 3 of my tools overnight." And just like that, everything exploded. My inbox flooded. Thousands of new users, signups doubled in a day, then tripled. Beta testers were raving, and someone tagged the company on Reddit. Investors who had ignored me months ago were now asking for meetings. I watched the analytics dashboard climb like it was defying gravity. I moved out of Devin's place and into a modest one-bedroom near the startup hub. Bought real furniture for the first time in years. Hired 2 full-time engineers and a freelance designer. Suddenly, I wasn't just building something, I was running something. Julia still had no idea. She didn't know about the feature and tech. She didn't know about the angel investor who cut me a $250,000 check. She didn't know that the guy she once called a stepping stone had just launched version 2.0 with 50,000 active users. And honestly, I didn't care whether she knew or not. I wasn't building this to prove her wrong anymore. I was building it because I finally believed in me. But success has a funny way of echoing through the past, and not long after that launch, her name lit up on my screen again. It was a Tuesday night. I had just wrapped a Zoom call with a startup accelerator in San Francisco when my phone buzzed. Julia, 2 missed calls, 1 new voicemail for a second. I just stared at the screen. It had been months. Not a word from her since I left the apartment. But there she was, popping up like a ghost in the middle of my new life. I didn't open the voicemail at first. I just sat back in my chair, heart weirdly still. Not angry, not curious, just distant. A few hours later, another notification. Hey, I saw your app. Congratulations. You really did it. I'm proud of you. Can we talk? I listened to the voicemail eventually. Her voice was soft, slower than I remembered. I don't know if you'll even listen to this, but I just wanted to say, I'm sorry for everything. I was immature. You didn't deserve what I said. I see that now. Then silence. A sigh. I miss you. I didn't reply. Over the next 2 weeks, she messaged 5 more times. A few texts were casual, like we were old friends catching up. A few were heavier. I've been thinking about you a lot. I didn't know how good I had it. Maybe we were just young and stupid. But I'd moved on. Every ping from her name felt like a door rattling in the wind one. I'd already nailed shut. I didn't block her. I didn't lash out. I didn't even reply to say, I told you so. I just let the silence grow louder. With every call she made, because some ghosts aren't meant to be exorcised, they're meant to be ignored. It had been over a year since I last saw her in person. I was invited to speak at a university alumni event, part networking, part class reunion. I almost declined, but something in me wanted to walk back through the doors as the man I had become, not the one they used to overlook. The venue was upscale, filled with familiar faces in unfamiliar suits. Everyone was older, slightly more polished, still pretending they weren't measuring each other's success. I shook hands, gave a short talk about the startup journey, and thanked the department that once told me to stick to the safe path. Then I saw her, Julia, standing near the bar in a black dress, holding a glass of white wine, laughing that same too loud laugh she always did when she wanted attention. She hadn't changed much, still stunning, still magnetic. But when her eyes met mine, something flickered. Shock, then regret. Asterisk, she approached me like we were old friends. Look at you, she said, her voice light, guarded. I saw the article in Forbes. You're really doing it. I smiled politely. Yeah, it's been a good year. There was a pause. She looked down, then back at me. I was an idiot. I nodded. Yeah, you were. She winced. I didn't mean it like you did, I said calmly, but it's all right. You taught me exactly what I needed to learn. She stared at me, searching my face for something, maybe a crack in the armor, maybe a spark of the guy who once would have done anything to please her. But he wasn't there anymore. I gave her a courteous smile and turned to speak with someone else, because in that moment, I realized something powerful. Her apology didn't change the past, but my silence had rewritten the future. I never heard from Julia after that night. Maybe she got the closure she came for. Maybe she finally understood the difference between love and leverage. Either way, I didn't need anything more from her. I'd already gotten the most valuable thing she ever gave me, an ending. In the months that followed, my company doubled in size. We closed a funding round, hired a full-stack team, and moved into a proper office with glass walls and a city view. I started mentoring other young developers, guys who'd been underestimated like I was. Every time I saw that look in their eyes, the one that said, "No one believes in me," I made sure they knew someone did. I started dating again. Slowly, carefully, I met someone who didn't ask about my revenue numbers or my 5-year plan on the first date. She asked what made me laugh, what I was afraid of, what I would do if all of this disappeared tomorrow. It was the kind of conversation I didn't realize I'd been starving for. And when I finally told her the story of Julia, the stepping stone comment, the betrayal, the fallout, she didn't flinch. She just said, "I'm glad she didn't believe in you." Or you wouldn't have become this version of you. She was right. Sometimes betrayal doesn't break you, it chisels you into something sharper. I don't carry hate in my chest for Julia. I carry clarity. The kind that lets you sleep well, speak your truth, and never chase after someone who once called you disposable. She hoped build the man she couldn't keep. And every time my phone rings now, I don't wait for apologies. Don't open old wounds. I just keep walking forward, because that's the version of me she'll never get to know. And I never looked back, not once, not even to see if she was watching. End of story. Let me know if you'd like a title slide, thumbnail concept, hook scripting, or intro narration to match the story's tone and performance.